Hello viewers, welcome to the impossible Grand Prix in the newly added F3500A in GT7. As soon as this car appeared as Daily Race A this week, I knew we was in for a very difficult set of races, and that proved to be very much the case. So here we are around Catalonia in a very beautiful car. However, the driving I would not describe as beautiful. As we head through turn 1, it's actually... well, I was going to say it's not too bad, but we've actually collected each other quite a few times there. But managed to keep going. A 7-lap race here in what can only be described as the most difficult car, I think, in this game. I have been really struggling to handle this thing consistently without crashing. It's got so much power, so much torque, and getting around 7 laps is going to prove to be a very difficult task. So I found myself here in 10th, up behind Nail Death. What a name. And he's just nailed his own death as he turns left into the right-hander and promptly finds himself in the wall. And that's just a case in point, easy example of how tricky this thing is to drive. He barely got on the power and it immediately wants to spin around on you. Now, something to note is I've turned traction control on for this car. I've got it on 2 out of 5, not even 1 out of 5. That just shows you how tricky this thing is. Heading down the last couple of corners, through the last one, trying to carry the speed as much as possible, just carrying a bit too much. Getting ourselves the classic 0.5 second penalty. We're going to go for the move there. Slipstream is actually quite strong in this car. This move here, I mean, that's a Max Verstappen special, that one. Put yourself up the inside. And I don't even know if I got to the apex first, to be honest. But we'll ask questions later. We didn't get a penalty. Anyway, someone else spinning off there on the outside as he recovers to the circuit. We're going to lose, actually not too much time, hopefully, with this 0.5 second penalty. As we come up through turns 6 and 7. Andy there with a very poor line. And you really do have to carry the momentum and get good exits in the correct gear to maximise this car. You do lose a lot of time if you don't get it right. I'm going to cover the inside line. This guy's just going to chop across at the last moment. It's a good move. And he takes the position. I've got my eyes on P6, but also on P5 and P4, as they are locked in a battle just around the corner. The top 3 are long gone. And it's going to be very difficult to try and catch up when you're starting right at the back of the pack. So yes, this car was added very recently as parts of update 1.55, as the Italian there with a mistake. It's proving to be a supremely difficult car to drive, and of course I would like to know your opinions on it. I think it's a really cool addition to the game, and in many ways it's quite nostalgic because we did have these sort of unbranded Formula cars in the early Gran Turismos, Polyphony 001, Polyphony 002, and it's kind of like that, I suppose. It feels very similar. But yeah, this one, not the easiest, and of course it was this week's time trial as well, where we got some practice around Monza. But here, Catalonia, perhaps suiting this car a bit better. As we head up the hill, we're in a nice little battle here with the Benetton. We're going to make a tiny bit of contact, and that is him sent pirouetting into the Shadow Realm. And amazingly, we get away with it. I suppose it was maybe a racing incident with severe results for the other party. But we are going to continue. Many deaths being reported here at Catalonia today in this car. So we have a nice battle here for 4th. And given that it's Daily Race A, a 7-lap race around here is actually quite a long race, I would say, for Daily Race A anyway. Heading down the hill, back to the scene of the crime. Trying to get past the Swiss driver who had a bit of a moment there on acceleration. And on the exit, looking for this move down into the hairpin. Doesn't cover it off. Try not to brake too late, which is exactly what I've done. And it's really easy to do that. Turning circle is not too good at that speed. As we now resume back to 6th place on lap 6. Did my best to try to catch back up with these guys, but the pace has settled down, and it was actually quite hard to really get a proper move done once the race has settled down, especially when you drive like that, making a big mistake. At the end of lap 7, I'm going to finish P6. I suppose not too bad for the first race, but lots of pondering to do for the next one. Hoping to go a little bit better this time around. Starting from 3rd, 3 traction control off the line. You can see the car in front there struggling for grip as we pull away from the line. As we try to bring up the radar. Pretty much 4 in a group here in a big cluster heading into the first corner. Ali loves to drink up the inside. And I'm back to 3rd again. As we go through the long 3rd corner of the track. Heading towards turn 4. Not sure exactly where we should go here. Covering off the inside, then the outside. As the German there goes through. Space opens up on the left hand side. We're going to slingshot up the inside. Doesn't quite work out for us. A very close battle, and that tended to be the way that these races would go. As the car's very close on that opening lap, of course, with the standing start. Look at that launch off the corner. I couldn't quite capitalise on it as I go into the back of him. But are we going to get a second opportunity here into the hairpin? Kind of fake to go across. Don't quite make it happen. Go for the switchback. Looking up the inside, and the space affords itself. We move back to 2nd. So this race looking a lot more promising than the first one, which was, well, it had lots of errors, lots of mistakes, and we started at the back. So it's always difficult to finish quite highly. That looks like it could be a penalty, and it is. Extremely strict on the exit there of the final corner. Upon serving it, you really don't lose too much time here, fortunately. So we're going to cover the insides on the way in. Joe's there, going to try it. Not quite going to work. And so we're going to keep the position. But you see there, as we head onto the rallycross circuit for a bit of rallycross, yeah, not exactly the line through there, I think it's fair to say. Easy mistake to make. The car really gets very loose on that left-hander. And the more I drove this car, the more I realised how difficult it was. Now moving ahead to lap 3 in 5th place, up behind Ali. Trying to follow closely. Bit of aero wash through the final corner, but now we can tuck into the slipstream as we cross the line. A 21.4. That's our fastest lap so far. And boom, up the inside it goes, or we go. He doesn't fight it. And back to 4th place with Super Dan in front. And quite a few laps here to try to catch back up. And we're just, slowly getting used to the car. It does take time, I think. It's definitely, unquestionably for me, top 5 hardest cars to drive in this game. And that's on a wheel. I would like to know your opinions on the controller, because I've heard, of course, that with update 1.55, they've smoothened out the controller to some extent and also made Formula cars somewhat easier to drive. But whether or not that actually translates, I'm not quite sure. Eventually finishing that race in 3rd. Only 2 seconds off the lead. The pace was actually really good at the end. But I decided to try to improve my qualifying time here. And this is my fastest lap. Trying to break into the 19s if possible. Late on the brakes, carry the speed in, off the brake pedal, back to 4th gear. And it's just about getting on that power as early as you dare without the rear end spinning round. And that's quite the delicate balance you have to find in this car. A car of this speed, you'd think it has tons of grip, but maybe not so much at low speed. The low speed corner is actually where it feels quite awkward. The last sector, or the last 2 corners, high speed, it kind of works through there. But the slow speed corners, especially on acceleration, it feels a little bit awkward. And you have to be super careful with your inputs. As we head up towards turn 9, this fast sweeping right-hander. Carry the speed as much as possible. Nice and tidy. Heading into the hairpin, braking just before the 100 board. Bringing the nose into the apex, back to 3rd gear for a smoother acceleration on the exit. Watch out on that kink, as we've seen. Very difficult corner. And, you don't ideally want to go onto the rallycross circuit from there. Last 2 corners again, just really about carrying the speed. Not sure you can quite take that final corner flat out, but almost. Crossing the line, 20.009, not too bad. That puts me third on the grid once again. I'm going to try and get a good launch. You can definitely gain some positions here. Get the traction control right. I'm driving off in third traction control. And it seemed to work, or at least Joe was having a bad time there. Going to be quite aggressive here into the first corner. Wheel banging there with the German player, and again on the exit. I can't quite carry the speed on the inside here, so it's going to be a drag race on the exit. The German there getting in front. Very aggressive into the corner. Once again, Max Verstappen is on show, on offer. As we get our elbows up, I'm not quite able to cement the position. We go back to second, so some good battling, I would say. Strong, heavy-handed battling, but here, going to get knocked slightly wide. And, oh my goodness, look at this. You get swarmed immediately. And I titled this The Impossible Grand Prix. And it proved to be the case, really, for me, that no matter what I did, I just could not quite get this race win. It was so difficult for everything to go in your favour. On the exit, almost getting tipped around, and oh my goodness, we are getting swarmed from left, right and centre. You might have seen someone spinning across the rallycross circuit there. Down to 6th place with dirty tyres on the left-hand side. This final corner is going to be a nightmare. Car just does not want to turn. Going to get an awful run off the corner as Batman turns left on a straight, goes flying into the wall. Batman has featured prominently in the videos of late, and he has driven very well, but even he has fallen victim to the F3500A, which, yeah, I mean, it's up there for sure as one of the hardest cars. We might go for a nice little double overtake here with the double switcheroo. Crofty going absolutely wild after that. Incredible scenes. So it's not absolutely impossible to drive, but it's definitely not the easiest, especially over 7 laps where you're on the edge. Quite a lot of laps. A little bit wide there, having to back off the power as someone drives off the track on the right hand side. There were so many crashes, and actually it was too wide. We're going to get the penalty as we get overtaken on the X by Joe. Joe had a really good lap time, 90.7 in qualifying. Just couldn't quite get those starts right. Likewise myself, never quite getting that first lap as I'd like. Oh my goodness, he goes for a little spin, and that's just another characteristic of this car. The curbs, depending on the profile of the curb, but certain curbs, especially if they're not the flat ones, they really do upset the balance of this car, and they'll send you pirouetting into oblivion. Another drive into the gravel as we lose grip and get a penalty. You can see the frustration building here, as I'm just really not on form, not quite on song with this car. I'm definitely going to have to put the hours in to perfect my technique with this thing, as it really is not something I'm gelling with here at all. Through the final corner, end of lap 4, going for P4, crossing the line in the slipstream. Is he going to cover the inside? Yes, he is. We'll just move to the left. We'll take the outside, which will actually be the racing line into the first corner. A little bit wide off that first apex, and almost making the big error. And then I do make the big error. You see the disappointment on my face after that. We move to the next one. Can we get this right? Probably not, but it's worth a try. We're trying here, guys. And sometimes you're going to have these sessions where things just don't quite go to plan. Heading down into turn 1. The showdown with Batman once again. As I said, we've been having a couple of really good races with this guy. And we're in store for another one here. Crossing the line, 21.4, good lap time. As Batman goes defensive. We're in the same livery here. Nice little move around the outside, give him the space. And we move up into the lead of the race. Could this be it? Where impossible turns to possible and we get the result in the bag. Well, don't speak too soon, because there's still 5 laps to go, including this one. So rounding out turn 4. Oh my goodness, a bit of a correction there. Onto lap 4. And things are looking okay until that moment there. Get the penalty a couple of pixels beyond the limit, and then that is many pixels beyond the limit, and I must find myself in the wall once again. Super frustrating. One last attempt. Come on, Super GT. This car cannot be impossible. You got to step up your game. You got to get good. Otherwise, everyone in the comments will tell you you're washed and your career is done. Career's in the bin. So, a couple of spins behind, I heard. Danny there with a poor start. Had a really good qualifying time, 19.3. And is immediately going to lose positions. We're back to how we were. Batman first. Super GT second. We have another crack here at trying to get this race win. Can we get it done finally? As we head for the final corner. Trying to reel him in. But I'm only being reeled in. As Danny there, the pole sitter, had a bad start. Coming back through the pack. And I'm not quite really able to do anything about it. As he moves up into second place. I'm going to try and stick in the slipstream as we continue on our journey towards Batman. Looking for the cutback here, the switcheroo through turn 3 towards 4. Not quite going to work. Looking for the aggressive move, and I've kind of pushed him out of the way there, so we're just going to let him go back on the left-hand side and try again to hunt down the race leader. So for sure, I'm going to have to practice a lot more in this car track combination as we head into turn 4, lap 4. We're going to get on the power and lose control of the car, and that was that, guys. I'm sorry the video had to end that way, but the impossible Grand Prix proved to be very much impossible.